The controversial line delivered by Kidpool, yes, that line going viral, was actually the most fitting option they had on the table. Now, you are probably sitting there thinking, Elsie, what in the world are you talking about? Let me explain. The scene in question gave two choices. Either Kidpool says, when I want your opinion, I will take Wolverine's private parts out of your mouth. Or she says, when we want your opinion, I will pull my panini out of your mouth. Neither is exactly subtle, but between the two, one had a clearer connection to the film's irreverent tone. And believe it or not, it was the lesser of two extremes. Here is where it gets even more complicated. The actor voicing Kidpool is actually Ryan Reynolds' daughter. And if you know anything about Reynolds, you know he has built an entire career on witty banter, sharp sarcasm, and a devil-may-care attitude toward political correctness. But this time, that signature humor is under fire. The backlash is loud. Some feel the joke crossed a line, while others see it as just another example of Deadpool's unapologetic style. Either way, what is unfolding now is a larger conversation, not just about what is appropriate in a comedy, but how far is too far when your own child is part of the performance. This time, Ryan Reynolds may have pushed the joke a little too far, even by his own bold standards. What sparked the growing backlash was not just another edgy punchline in Deadpool and Wolverine, it was who said it. The internet lit up when people learned that the voice behind one of the most explicit jokes in the film belonged to none other than Reynolds' 7-year-old daughter, Inz. The moment was meant to land as humor, but instead it raised eyebrows and sparked serious conversations about boundaries, especially when children are involved. According to Reynolds, Inz was initially unsure about delivering the line, and who could blame her? But instead of honoring her hesitation, he casually joked that she would be replaced if she did not go through with it. What might have sounded lighthearted in tone has been interpreted by many as a subtle form of pressure, especially given the power dynamic. While Reynolds and director Sean Levy later explained the context, the damage was already done. What was intended to be another tongue-in-cheek Deadpool moment is now being dissected as a moment of questionable parenting. It now when I started looking at other people to play it? Yeah. But Ryan, to our discredit, we made Nezzy do. I'm not you 70 to 500 versions of that line. I'm going to pay for that. Later Blake, lively there as Lady Pool, Lady dead as Cowboy. MC showing up like a champ. What a dream boot that guy is. What a movie star in the most classic and amazing way. Nathan Philly, it's crazy. I didn't realize Matthew MCC was involved in this film. Now fans and critics are calling him out for involving a child in something so inappropriate while some dismiss it as just another joke. Others believe it highlights a much deeper issue, one that Hollywood has ignored for far too long. The outrage has only grown with many, asking where should the line be drawn when it comes to children in entertainment. The recent developments, not only from the Justin Balan lawsuit, but those things that are being unearthed precisely on that script from Deadpool and Wolverine are, well, nothing short of disturbing. I'm going to just jump right into the details, and we have this Inz is a girl in 7 years old. Inz as a child. Inz is your child. Why would you write a line that says your child will take her panini out of your mouth? She doesn't even have a panini number. Number 2, that's a child, your child. And some people might try to brush it off, call it a joke, say it is all just part of the performance. But let us be clear, this is not just harmless fun, and anyone really paying attention can see that. When creators push these kinds of moments onto the screen, it often feels like they are testing the limits, poking at boundaries just to see how far they can go without consequences. And the truth? They are getting away with more than most people realize. The firestorm began when Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy opened up about the film in a behind-the-scenes interview. What should have been a standard promotional chat quickly turned into something much more controversial. In the middle of the conversation, Ryan Reynolds dropped a revelation that caught everyone off guard. His 7-year-old daughter had recorded one of the film's most explicit and unsettling lines. This was not just a quirky family cameo. It was a moment that raised real, uncomfortable questions about parenting, responsibility, and the ever-blurring line between humor and harm. Reynolds may have tried to keep it light, but many people were left wondering, what happens when your child becomes part of a joke the world is not laughing at? The situation has sparked larger conversation. Some people might try to brush it off, call it a joke, say it is all just part of the performance. But let us be clear, this is not just harmless fun, and anyone really paying attention can see that. When creators push these kinds of moments onto the screen, it often feels like they are testing the limits, poking at boundaries just to see how far they can go without consequences. And the truth? They are getting away with more than most people realize. The firestorm began when Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy opened up about the film in a behind-the-scenes interview. What should have been a standard promotional chat quickly turned into something much more controversial. In the middle of the conversation, Ryan Reynolds dropped a revelation that caught everyone off guard. His 7-year-old daughter had recorded one of the film's most explicit and unsettling lines. This was not just a quirky family cameo. It was a moment that raised real uncomfortable questions about parenting, responsibility, and the ever-blurring line between humor and harm. Reynolds may have tried to keep it light, but many people were left wondering, what happens when your child becomes part of a joke the world is not laughing at? The situation has sparked larger conversations, not only about the film industry's obsession with shock value, but about what we are willing to accept under the label of entertainment. And perhaps most importantly, it is forcing us to look at how far is too far. Some people might try to brush it off, call it a joke, say it is all just part of the performance. But let us be clear, this is not just harmless fun, and anyone really paying attention can see that. When creators push these kinds of moments onto the screen, it often feels like they are testing the limits, poking at boundaries just to see how far they can go without consequences. And the truth? They are getting away with more than most people realize. The firestorm began when Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy opened up about the film in a behind-the-scenes interview. What should have been a standard promotional chat quickly turned into something much more controversial. In the middle of the conversation, Ryan Reynolds dropped a revelation that caught everyone off guard. His 7-year-old daughter had recorded one of the film's most explicit and unsettling lines. Reynolds and Blake Lively have always been vocal about protecting their children's privacy. The couple has criticized the media for photographing their kids without consent. Yet here was Reynolds willingly involving his daughter in an R-rated film's crude joke. Many saw this as a complete contradiction. And this is what they wanted her to say, and they forced her, he and Blake forced her, Sean Levy forced her to do this and to practice multiple versions of this. He says 70 to 500 times what kind of what type of number is Ryan Reynolds has built a career on sarcasm, charm, and the kind of boundary-pushing wit that audiences either adore or raise an eyebrow at. But lately, the spotlight has shifted from his silver screen antics to Reynolds and Blake Lively have always been vocal about protecting their children's privacy. The couple has criticized the media for photographing their kids without consent, yet here was Reynolds willingly involving his daughter in an R-rated film's crude joke. Many saw this as a complete contradiction, and this is what they wanted her to say, and they forced her, he and Blake forced her. Sean Levy forced her to do this and to practice multiple versions of this. He says 70 to 500 times what kind of what type of number is. Ryan Reynolds has built a career on sarcasm, charm, and the kind of boundary-pushing wit that audiences either adore or raise an eyebrow at. But lately, the spotlight has shifted from his silver screen antics to something far more personal, his role as a father. The tipping point came when a line connected to his young daughter made its way into public discourse. Though likely intended as a joke, the comment struck many as startlingly inappropriate for a child. The fact that it was reportedly written for her set off alarms across the internet, with critics and fans alike wondering how such a decision was ever approved, and what it revealed about Reynolds' judgment as a parent. This was not viewed in isolation. For years, Reynolds has leaned into a comedic persona that blends self-deprecation with sharp jabs at those closest to him, often including his wife, Blake Lively. Some see it as playful banter, others view it as needling that toes the line. Add to that his constant tongue-in-cheek adoration for Hugh Jackman, complete with over-the-top, often sexually suggestive jokes, and a pattern begins to emerge. Much of this plays out in the Deadpool universe, where Reynolds portrays a character celebrated for being pansexual, a quality meant to reflect openness and inclusivity. But critics argue that in practice, this identity is sometimes reduced to crass punchlines and never-ending sexual innuendos, many of which center around the same tired tropes. What made this particular incident stand out, though, was not the usual adult humor. It was the reported involvement of a child in a space many believe should have clear boundaries. The second the story hit social media, it exploded. What might have passed as another edgy Reynolds moment was suddenly reframed, not as a joke, but as a parenting misstep. The outrage was swift and sharp. People were not just concerned with the joke itself, but with the broader implications. The blurring. Lines between performance and personal life, comedy and care. The public reaction forced a deeper conversation, one that asked where humor ends and responsibility begins, especially when children are involved. That you make this girl practice different iterations of Wolverine having his male genitalia. In her father's mouth, Deadpool, and she didn't want to do it because she's a little girl and she shouldn't have done it, she shouldn't have been forced to do it, and I want you to hear what else they say that when she didn't want to do it well. I'm just gonna find someone else to do it and then no, daddy. I'll do it. I'll do it. See when a narcissist when they're trying to manipulate you, and you can see the grooming starting young here in this situation to me. I'm not an expert, but as a regular person who has had experienced with narcissists, this is what they do. Even some diehard Deadpool fans struggled to defend Reynolds. This time, many argued that while Deadpool and Wolverine is an R-rated movie, meant for adults, there was no justification for making a child voice such a crude line. One fan commented there were so many ways to make that joke work without a kid, saying this was a conscious choice and a bad one. This situation has also reignited. Hollywood has faced long-standing scrutiny over how it handles child actors, often accused of crossing ethical boundaries in the name of entertainment. From giving young performers roles that are far too mature for their age to having them deliver lines they may not fully understand, the industry has repeatedly blurred the line between performance and exploitation. Now, Ryan Reynolds, an actor, widely embraced for his playful charm and family-friendly image, is finding himself pulled into that ongoing debate. The spotlight has turned to his decision to cast a child, reportedly around 7 years old, in the upcoming Deadpool movie. What makes this casting choice even more eye-catching is the child's connection to Taylor Swift, as her goddaughter ends. While some may see it as a sweet moment of mentorship or a fun cameo, others are raising eyebrows, especially those from more conservative or religious backgrounds. Through all of this, Blake Lively has remained eerily silent. Considering her history of being vocal about protecting her children's privacy, her lack of response has not gone unnoticed. Some speculate she wasn't fully aware of the situation, until the public backlash started gaining momentum, leaving her quiet in the face of a rapidly unfolding mess. But it turns out I was wrong. Very wrong. In a surprising turn during a post-film interview, Reynolds revealed that not only did he encourage his daughter to say the line, but she wasn't comfortable with it. She resisted, and yet Reynolds went ahead and insisted, telling her if she didn't do it, he'd find someone else to step in. The reality was far more unsettling than I'd imagined. He essentially pushed his daughter into performing a scene that she wasn't okay with, showing a troubling disregard for her discomfort. It raises a much-needed question about the ethics of child actors in the industry. Even if it's for comedic effect, how far is too far when it comes to asking children to perform lines or act in scenes that are clearly beyond their understanding? Reynolds' admission forces us to rethink the boundaries that should exist between professional obligations and personal responsibility. The decision to cast a 7-year-old in Deadpool was already a controversial one, but it became even more troubling after Sean's casual mention of how many takes were required to get the line just right. This wasn't a one-time slip-up. It was an active effort to perfect a moment that many would argue had no business being part of a child's acting experience. The fact that they repeatedly pushed her to deliver this line only deepens the concern. At what point did anyone on set step back and question if this was really appropriate? Did no one raise a flag and say, maybe we should reconsider making a young child say something like this? Ryan Reynolds' response to the backlash only seemed to fuel the fire. Instead of taking a step back and addressing the situation with the seriousness it warranted, he seemed to downplay the criticism. His casual dismissal of the issue only heightened the outrage, leaving many to wonder if Hollywood's culture of pushing boundaries might have crossed a line, particularly when it comes to the treatment of children in the industry. Ryan Reynolds tried to brush off the controversy surrounding his daughter's involvement in Deadpool with humor, joking that he'd pay for it later when she's older. But to Reynolds owes the public, and more importantly his daughter, a real explanation, not just a joke. This incident has also forced people to reconsider their perception of Ryan Reynolds. He has built his career on being the funny, self-aware actor who doesn't take things too seriously, but now some are wondering whether his humor has crossed the line, especially when it comes at the expense of his own child. Here she is at the 2022 Forbes Power Women's Summit. I would show on a set. I knew that they just wanted me to show up and look. I've always known that I wasn't. Just there to say my lines and stand on a little pink sticker. While that might have been the expectation, I knew deep down it wasn't enough for me. I wanted to have a say in the storytelling process, to be part of the narrative in a meaningful way. Whether it was through writing, costume design, or shaping the character, I wanted to contribute more than just my performance. Some directors, producers, and writers welcomed that extra input once they saw I could offer something valuable. But there were others who resented it, feeling like I was stepping out of line, as if my role was simply to act and nothing more. When I entered meetings, I'd often give off the impression that I was just there to get the job and do my part. But in reality, I needed more than just a role to feel truly fulfilled. I needed to have a hand in creating something, in shaping the story. To some, that might have felt like an unexpected shift, almost like I was trying to assert myself where I wasn't supposed to be. This brings us to a bigger question. Where do we draw the line? Is it ever okay for a child to participate in a joke that they don't fully understand, especially when it's aimed at adults? The lines between creativity, responsibility, and the protection of young actors become blurred in these moments, and that's something we all need to consider. Tuesday. What point does a parent's approval stop being the deciding factor and common sense take precedence? Hollywood has long walked a fine line when it comes to using children for shock value, often prioritizing entertainment over the well-being of young actors. Ryan Reynolds had a clear opportunity to make a more responsible choice. He could have easily scrapped the controversial joke, opted for an adult voice actor, or simply respected his daughter's hesitation. Instead, he chose to push forward with the scene, and now he's facing the fallout. The larger question now is whether Reynolds will take this as a wake-up call. Will he recognize the impact of his decisions and learn from the situation, or will he continue to treat moments like these as just another joke, brushing aside the deeper responsibility that comes with being a public figure, especially when it involves children?